Alright, I guess this is kind of like my first proper studio diary. If you're new around here, feel free to like and subscribe. It would really help with growing this small YouTube channel. So, here we go. Back in 2022, a space opened up at a screen printing studio just outside of Brighton in a small place called New Haven. At the time, I started to think about diversifying my practice, and I realised a huge disconnect between the work that I like and the work that I make. I'm a person that really loves things. I love collecting stuff. I've got a collection of ceramic dogs, a collection of vinyls, a collection of books, a collection of books about collecting books. I've got all sorts of weird and wonderful, beautiful things that I've surrounded myself with. And what I've realised is that my art mainly exists digitally. And this is a real issue because I'm not making the stuff that I kind of like. So when I saw a post on Instagram about this studio opening up in New Haven, I thought maybe this is the opportunity to start pushing my work into more of a physical space. Now, it's been a long time since I've screen printed anything. I don't think I've actually screen printed anything since I was at university, and that was quite a while ago. And when I was at university, I wasn't particularly great at screen printing either. So there is an element of understanding that I'm gonna suck at screen printing for quite some time. Because of that, I've decided that it would make sense, at least for the first couple of months, to just print my packaging. Now, there's two reasons as to why I'm gonna print my packaging. The first reason is that I really like the experience of unboxing luxury goods. So things like handbags, sneakers, streetwear clothing, and I want to bring that sort of luxury experience of unboxing a print to my customers that buy my art. The second reason as to why I'm printing my packaging is that my printing is going to suck for a while, and most people put the packaging in the bin. I do quite like the idea of people really struggling not to put it into the bin and wanting to hold on to it, but to be fair, most of it always ends up in the trash anyway, so it's just a really good way of printing stuff and not being too precious whilst I get better at printing. Now, back in 2022, I managed to print some envelopes, some A3 envelopes, some grey boards, and some sleeves, along with a handful of other prints for other people. But in today's video, I'm going to be designing my A5 envelopes and screen printing them. That was a really long introduction. I'm now going to get started with the drawing.
When designing these envelopes, I wanted to design something that was large enough for me to fit the address on. I really like the front of the envelopes to have some sort of narrative with the backside of the envelopes. In this case, I've been thinking it might be quite nice to have a flower crown on the front and a butterfly on the back. I really like using butterflies and flowers in my work as motifs. I find the fact that they visually transform during their life cycle fascinating. I'm sort of using these motifs as a metaphor for personal growth. I'm not much of a wellness girly, but I believe we all go through stuff navigating life, and in order to get through everything that life throws at you, you have to change and adapt. And yet, at the very core, we all stay the same, just like flowers and butterflies. I don't know, maybe that's a little bit cheesy. Maybe I just like using these motifs because nobody else asked me to draw them. As you can see, I'm now cleaning these artworks up. This can often take a little bit longer than expected. It's really important to make sure that all the artworks overlap slightly and that everything is correct before printing the acetates.
Okay, the designs are now finished. I've sent them off to my friend Graham, who prints all my acetates, and I'm going to catch you guys in a few moments at the print studio where we can get started with printing.
Today is a pretty miserable day. I've only recently started getting the train to New Haven. It's got some nice views and some dire ones. It's certainly not as nice as the coastal bus journey, but sometimes the bus can take a lifetime to get to New Haven.
Okay, so I'm finally in the print studio. I guess I better get going. First, I need to expose some screens. They were already coated a few weeks back, so they're good to go. Once I've exposed those screens, I'll need to wash the screens out. Then they'll need to dry. Whilst they're drying, I'll probably mix my inks ready for printing. I'm really looking forward to seeing how these envelopes turn out, so let's get cracking.
Here's me exposing the screen. I tend to expose the screen for about 5 minutes. Whilst the screen is being exposed, I stand outside. This is because the light is UV and I don't really want to expose myself to UV if I can help it. It does unfortunately mean that today, when I was exposing the screen, I had to stand out in the rain for 5 minutes, but we move. This first layer took a few hours to put down, but there was no registration, which meant it printed fairly easily. I then washed the screen out, dried it, and set the screen back up. This next layer was a bit trickier and took a few more hours to print. Trying to register this layer was a bit of a pain, but I'm really happy with the trapping and how the printing is going. I'm yet to run into any big issues, which is great.
Day 1 of printing is now done. I managed to get 2 layers down on my envelopes. I've got another 4 layers to get done, so I'll be definitely coming back tomorrow. I'm now gonna break down the studio, clean the screens, and make my way home.
It's another fairly miserable day today, so I'm glad I can hunker down in my print studio and get on with some printmaking. I think today is gonna be a pretty long day.
It's day 2. Obviously all the screens were exposed yesterday, so I can just get on with printing straight away today, which is great. It is just gone midday. It's gonna be a long day in the studio today, but I'm hoping that I can finish earlier than 9 PM.
This layer is probably going to be the hardest layer to print of the entire project. That is because the registration needs to be really tight, otherwise it's gonna look awful. I'm printing a lot of envelopes. I'm printing 250 envelopes in total, and with any sort of print run, there are usually more than a fair few duds.
That's the end of day 2, and I managed to get the 3rd layer on the front of the envelope done. Unfortunately, because it's now 7 PM, I don't have time to start the back, so I'll be back in tomorrow to start the back. Hopefully I can get that done within a day. If not, it's fine, there's plenty of time and we'll get it finished. I'm gonna break the screens down and head home.
It's another miserable day.
It's day 3 in the print studio, and today is gonna be the last day. We're gonna get the envelopes finished today. There's 3 layers to do on the back, 2 of which don't need any registration really, so that should speed things up. It's gonna be a long day, but I'm really looking forward to getting these envelopes finished and showing you the final product.
This first layer should go down a treat. There's no registration and the surface area is really low, which means it should be a dream to print. I find sometimes that the smaller artworks are much more easier to print than the larger ones. I always find it harder to regulate the pressure in my arms and my hands when printing big prints. I get so many more misprints when printing big work. I'm certainly glad I'm not printing 250 A1 prints. Next layer is probably going to be the second trickiest layer to lay down, as there are a few bits that need to be registered. I'm trying my hardest to make sure that everything looks as tip-top as possible. This is not only because I want it to look good for my customers, but also it's really important for me to keep pushing my technical abilities. This last layer needs very little registration and concentration. I actually ended up going live on TikTok whilst printing this layer. The whole experience was absolutely terrifying, but I'm trying my hardest to really push myself this year. Hence why I've started this YouTube channel.
That's the end of day 3, and the envelopes are now finished. It's almost 8 PM, so I'm gonna break down the screens and head home. And just before we go, I'm gonna show you guys the envelopes. I'm really happy with how these came out. Thank you so much for watching my first proper YouTube video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. This is gonna be the first of many YouTube videos that I post on this YouTube channel this year. Have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next vid. Bye.